Hello, hello, wonderful humans of the interwebs. Welcome to eSpot Live. I'm Ellie. This is Rodney. Happy Monday and also happy Memorial Day. It's been a long weekend, which is super nice. Hopefully y'all have had a nice weekend as well. It really feels weird. It doesn't feel like a Monday. I don't know what it feels like, but my brain's a little bit odd. I feel like time has been so weird over the past, year and a half. And for some reason, I guess I'm finally getting used to being on some sort of, schedule. Like a normal-esque schedule. And now I'm not used to holidays, so here we are. I always start these with disclaimers. And I don't think I have any specific ones. Which makes me nervous, as always. But my interwebs seem to be working, okay? Wolf says, no, it's just me. I'm weird. Welcome, Wolf! Good to see you in the chat. I'm not sure what that's in reference to. Is there a delay in the chat? There's probably a bit of a delay. Though, since I've got somebody in the chat, let me know how the stream's going. Is it running okay, or is it a bit choppy? We've had some really weird issues recently, that, surprisingly enough, have not been, they're not my internet. I usually do get notifications on my end, though, when the stream is dropping or anything like that, and I'm not seeing anything like that, so I'm hopeful, knock on wood. Let's, hope that it stays a smooth stream, if it is one. As always, let me know how the sound balance is. Let me know how the stream's running. If it's dropping frames or anything like that, I will do what I can to troubleshoot on my end. Wolf says it seems good except for the chat delay. You know what? I'll take it. I will take a slightly delayed chat and be grateful for it, as long as that's the only thing. So good to know. Thank you for that info. Pretty excited. Hoping it goes well. Still a little nervous that something's gonna go off. And Wolf just said audio just went off sync. Well, let me see if there's anything I can do about that on my end. I'm not getting any notifications that anything's dropping or behind or anything, which is good news. But also, yeah, there's no lagged frames on my end either, so I'm not sure how to fix that for you, Wolf, but hey. Yeah, go ahead and check YouTube if that's okay with you, Wolf, and we'll see how that goes. Sometimes it is a little bit different on YouTube versus Twitch. You know, I haven't had anybody on the YouTube in a while, I think, so we'll see how it goes. But in the meantime, if the stream's running smooth enough for now, I might as well jump straight into the first topics for today. So first up, to chat about in entertainment news-esque topics is HBO's The Last of Us. So I've talked about this a little bit before. There's a show, The Last of Us, coming to HBO. This is super exciting because HBO's actually done a solid job so far, I think, of transitioning from video game to TV. And that's hard to do. I feel like I've said this a bajillion times over different topics, but I always feel like video game adaptations are hit and miss to a bizarre extent. Any book fan is going to tell you it's kind of the same with a book adaptation, really any adaptation, but video games are just notorious, I think, for either being bizarrely excellent or very much less so, for lack of a better term. Wolf is checking Twitch in the browser as well. Browser's worse. Sorry about that. Again, I don't think that's on my end, but I don't know. If you have feedback for me and I can fix it on my end, I will. But yeah, keep giving me feedback. We'll see if I can do anything. I'll keep checking things on my end as we go as well. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked about The Last of Us on HBO because just from the little bits that they're dropping, I'm really, really hopeful for this adaptation. Also, it helps that one of the main characters' name is Ellie, which is the best name, obviously. So, you know, I'm a fan. There it is. But, yeah, I'm super excited about this. But the one thing that I wanted to kind of chat about, specifically within this topic, is Merle Dandridge, who's an actor who's had a long career in television and theater, will be reprising her role of Marlene in The Last of Us adaptation. This has been reported by Variety and Deadline. So Dandridge's casting is particularly notable because it's actually very, very rare that actors from the video games get to reprise their role for the adaptation. There's a as with any medium, there's quite a bit of divide between voice acting and video game realm and adaptations on television or film or anything like that, really. And part of that is that voice acting is very different in some ways from on screen acting, however you want to kind of word that. Though, and I do want to touch on this a little bit later, the distinction is kind of shifting as more and more people are doing like motion capture, and as more often video games are actually taking the likeness of the actor in addition to the motion capture and in addition to the voice acting to use for the characters. But the cool thing about voice acting is that you can portray anybody. Obviously, there's some limitations. I mean, some actors have more limitations than others. But you can utilize your voice and lend your voice to really anything. So it doesn't have to be an exact match. A lot of times you'll have adults playing children, if only for like labor laws and whatnot. So there's a lot of factors that go into why a voice actor will not necessarily be tagged for the role in a live action anything, be it TV, movie, whatever. But this just brings up a very, very interesting topic. The character of Marlene is integral to how the lead characters of Joel and Ellie join together to head off on their zombie road trip in the first place. So it's a relatively key character. Obviously, we're not sure how much of the game's story is going to carry over to the television adaptation. They've kind of hinted that there's going to be some similarities, but a lot of big differences as well. So no clue how similar or different this character might be on screen than the game adaptation. So there's a lot there, and it's really interesting, but Dandridge's situation is very, very unique in this. So both Troy Baker's Joel and Ashley Johnson's Ellie were recast for executive producer and writer Craig Mazin's take on the critically acclaimed video game. So the two lead characters are not going to be represented by the same actors who let their voices. The characters are being picked up by Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, respectively. And that was announced back in February. So it's interesting that the two lead actors have been recast, like I said, for a multitude of reasons. Hearing somebody's voice and having an excellent voice for a role doesn't always mean that you're the person to play the on-scrreen version. But also, I feel like there's an element that a lot of times we see, my hair's sticking up very weirdly. A lot of times we'll see, sometimes voice actors will be passed over for a role simply because of notoriety, because studios want to tap in a big name or a Hollywood star to kind of give clout to that television show or movie or whatever the adaptation is. So there's a lot of interesting dynamics there. And if you look at that recent history of adapting video games for film and TV, there's a very clear trend towards, like I said, just kind of bringing in big names who are known for television and film roles rather than bringing over the voice actors. We saw that in Jake Gyllenhaal in Prince of Persia. We saw that with Tom Holland in Uncharted. A lot of times. This happens very often. This is not the first time that a voice actor has been brought over to reprise the role in a television adaptation. I think the most recent thing that's hit the news would be when Jen Taylor was tapped to join the cast of Viacom CBS's Halo series. So Taylor has played Cortana since 2001 within the games, but originally the role in the show was given to Natasha McElhone. However, due to the pandemic and a lot of production irregularities and things like that, schedules changing, McElhone had to step down, and Taylor was brought back in to voice the character in the show. So again, even in that particular instance, the original idea was to go with someone else for the role rather than taking the person who's voiced the role. So it's just very, very interesting to me. And like I said, sometimes it definitely makes sense. If you have an adult voicing a child and you're going to make an adaptation, you're probably going to want to cast someone who looks the age of the role, right? That kind of thing makes sense for sure. But just to kind of dismiss a voice actor to get somebody with a bigger name, I don't think it's always the best option. Sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't. But it's just an interesting thing, I think, to ruminate on. But yeah, it's interesting too, like I said, and I'll be curious to see if there's kind of a shift in this voicing versus live action representation due to the increasing prevalence of motion capture. And in addition to motion capture, it's becoming more common, like I said, to use the actor as a model for the character as well. So yeah, it kind of makes sense in some of these situations to use the person who's already built the character, who's helped to develop the character, who has represented the character not only in voice, but also in motion capture, in cutscenes, and all these things. They know the physicality of the character. It does make sense to put them in the live action. They've clearly already done the work for the character building, especially if it's a successful and well-known and beloved character. So it'll be interesting to see. For now, that's the exception rather than the rule, to have a voice actor represent their character on screen as well. But as more and more video game adaptations are in the works, I'm very interested to see if that trend begins to shift. And like I said, aside from the fact that there are always going to be situations where that's not the best for the character, and I think everybody understands it in those situations, but aside from those moments and situations, I would love to see more voice actors on screen if that's what they want to do. Obviously, they might not want to for a number of reasons, but yeah, there are so many incredible voice actors, and I feel like they aren't known, which in and of itself is preferable to some people, so there's nothing wrong with it at the end of the day. But yeah, it'll be nice to see more and more people just given these opportunities, I suppose. That's a good way to sum it up. That's all I really have on that particular topic, unless y'all have thoughts, concerns, opinions, any of that. I'm going to jump on over to the chat really quick. So Wolf confirmed that YouTube's on point. Woohoo! Glad it's working on YouTube. Good to know. And then Wolf says, I use Speechello for voice AI voiceovers. Is that for, like, when you need a robotic voice? You use is it an app or something? I'm not as familiar with Speechello. But even those, like, are typically based on someone's voice. Like, I don't think we will ever get to a point in time where we can get rid of voice acting entirely. Because even as you can manipulate voices and make, whether it's robotic voices or whatever else, like, those are all, when you think of voices that aren't voices, when you think of Cortana, when you think of, my brain blinked, Alexa, when you think of Google Maps, all those voices, those are voice actors. Those are people voicing that. So yeah, it's always gonna be a thing, I think, but it's fun. I always have my favorite performances across the board are live action where there's no lines. So live actions where you're just watching a character think and process and interact with their environment or interact with another actor. Anything that just, when there's no lines, but you can just know exactly what's going on in their head. Those are my favorite performances to watch. And then my other favorite performance would be a line that is just carries all the power in the world when you cannot see the character, whether that's on screen or in a video game or voice acting or something like that. But when an actor has the skill and just amazing storytelling capabilities to either tell a story without lines, with their face, or tell a story just with their voice without being able to use their body and face, I don't even know how to explain it. My adoration for that performance just goes through the roof. I enjoy all watching acting in general, television, video games, all of it. But those are two things that will always, whenever it's a powerful performance in one of those two ways, it will always catch me. And I love it. So, there's that. Wolf saying, Sweet Yellow can alter to make just about any voice, like a voice mod. And then No Way. Is the No Way about my opinion on my favorite types of performances? Do you disagree? Curious to hear that. It's fine either way. I enjoy it. Gosh, I could gush about my favorite actors and their faces and or voices all day long. So, moving right along before this gets kind of creepy. Next up to chat about, but I still want to hear Wolf's answer. Next up to chat about is another thing being added to Fortnite's list of crossovers. Epic is adding Mistborn, which is super fun. So Fortnite just continues to surprise in very unexpected ways, and this time another crossover event. This time with Brandon Sanderson's ongoing Mistborn book series. So players are going to be able to dive into Fortnite's Battle Royale shop to add Mistborn's Kelsier to their ranks. I'm sorry if I've butchered that name, but there it is. This character's a cloaked assassin wielding a volcanic glass dagger. Can I just say that sounds amazing? And players can choose whether he wears his black attire or his masked white undercover variant. This purchase also adds the Hemalurgic Spikes back bling and a Kelsier-themed loading screen. Sanderson has penned 7 different Mistborn books and has announced plans to release 4 more. The next novel, Mistborn the Lost Metal, is slated to release in December of 2022. Sanderson has also projected release dates for the next trilogy of books, landing in 2025, 2026, and 2027. It'd be really lovely if all authors could do that, always, especially when we've been waiting a while for the next book. Even if it's already been adapted into a TV show, we still want the book. But no, that's difficult to do, and I would imagine that having those solid release dates in place means this guy either has an excellent writing schedule that he's very confident in, or honestly already has the books outlined and is in the process of just filling out and editing at this point in time. Anyways, Sanderson has worked with Epic's games Donald Mustard in the past. He wrote 2 novellas based on Chair's excellent mobile Infinity Blade games. The Infinity Blade Weapon of Note appeared in Fortnite for a short stint before being vaulted on December 14th of 2018. It can now be found in creative mode. So for players that subscribe to Fortnite Crew, the heavily armored Mecha Cuddle Master will be added to the pack this June. She comes with Citronic Bow back bling, the Nuzzle Jet pickaxe, which shoots out a flame, and a Cuddle Mech wrap. So, some more fun Fortnite crossovers. I am always fascinated when Fortnite announces a new crossover, because I just never see it coming. If that was a bet, I would just never, I'd never win. But it's always fascinating. A lot of fun stuff. Anything in particular y'all would like to see in a Fortnite crossover? Also, catching up on the chat real quick. Oh, based on the no way comment, Wolf says, just picking, gotta keep the crowd on edge. Fair enough. Fortnite needs oh gosh, I can't say that word. Rorschach? Rorschach? Someone from Watchmen. Which, in case it's not obvious, I'm not familiar with Watchmen. I've heard of it. Need to learn more about it, clearly, so I can pronounce words from it. I've got this thing that I'm realizing more and more recently, where I learned a decent chunk of vocabulary through reading. And I I developed very early on a kind of make it up and say it with confidence type mindset when it came to reading. Like, I would just very confidently say words wrong. And then I think over my lifetime, I just became more and more aware of the fact that other people would, you know, laugh when I'd say words wrong. And then I got super self-conscious about it. And so now when I see a word, even though I know that I could probably just, like, say it and it would be fine, I panic a little bit. And that's a common theme on this show, is me mispronouncing things and then freaking out whether or not anyone else cares. So there's that. Fun stuff, fun stuff. Speaking of crossovers, again, I would never see coming. There's been teases, and I'm gonna emphasize teases, now that this isn't confirmed or anything, but of a Jurassic World and Fast and Furious crossover. Which, I don't know what that looks like. Is that a T-Rex driving a semi? Is that a semi running over a T-Rex? Is that Fast and Furious team scooping up the Jurassic World team in a fast vehicle to run away from dinosaurs? I don't know! I mean, okay, Universal has a plethora of fantastic film franchises, in case you didn't know. And many of these can actually be experienced in the Universal parks across the globe. That being said, they're not necessarily known for their crossovers. Especially between two completely unrelated Universal films and worlds. However, in a recent tweet, Universal fans can get a taste of what that might look like if they feel like going through with it. So Culture Crave recently tweeted that, quote, hashtag Fast and Furious director Justin Lin won't rule out a Jurassic World crossover. Never say never. Part of our philosophy is not to ever be boxed in or labeled. End quote. Which again, none of this is confirmed. None of this is anybody actually saying anything. It's just people throwing out conjectures. But the fact that they threw it at the Fast and Furious director and he was like, well, I mean, I don't know. It sounds like he's kind of down for it, which would be very interesting. If you have seen any of the Fast and Furious films or any of the Jurassic Park or Jurassic World films, you know that these are not similar films or genres or franchises or anything. They're pretty drastically different. One franchise takes place in cities. It's all about cars. The other takes place on a fictional island where dinosaurs still are living and chilling at a theme park. So combining the two would be hilarious in a spoof, but really, really hard to do if anybody was ever serious about this. Because how do you do, like, that justice of such jarringly different worlds? I don't know. I have no clue what that would look like. I really don't. But then, to make the idea even more interesting, Universal Orlando Resort responded to the tweet saying, quote, a party bus dinosaur coaster with a flume drop? Please, Justin Lin, end quote. Which is kind of amazing. Worth noting that there's no actual confirmation, and Universal Orlando's Twitter is kind of known for joking around, so there's that. It's a bit more cheeky than serious, and nobody's making official plans for this, but it's fun to think about. And I don't know, I feel like if things go viral, more and more often we're seeing studios and whatnot actually respond to viral fan demands. Again, whether or not we'd see this on a screen, or in a theme park with the rides, or at all, or in a spoof on SNL, that would be fantastic too. I'm here for it. I'm here for any of it, really. But yeah. Also worth noting that Fast and Furious 9 comes out on June 25th, so all of this could also just be a very blatant form of advertising. Which doesn't make it any less exciting or interesting for me, so there. But yeah, crossovers I wouldn't expect. There we go, yet another one for my list. I should start just throwing out the most crazy crossovers I can think of and see if they exist. I don't even know. I'm not that creative, apparently. Who knew? Catch up on the chat real quick. Wolf's talking about how I'm essentially always... I dig my own holes when it comes to me making blunders. Nobody... or rarely am I ever actually called out on accidentally saying the wrong thing or butchering a pronunciation, but I always just get so flustered over it. I'm glad it's funny. I'm glad it's amusing. I'll take that. Take that as a win. We'll just pretend it's on purpose. It's part of my bit, right? Definitely. I'm not just that awkward. I'm actually just that awkward. That's it. That's what I got for that topic. So next up, anyone familiar with Microsoft Flight Simulator knows that it is a doozy of a download. My goodness, it is a big game. The Steam page says that it needs at least 150 gigabytes of drive space. The actual download's bigger than that. I mean, large games, large file sizes are kind of a fact of life in this very exciting digital era, especially something like a simulator. Those are known for being quite large. Even so, it's a whopper of a download for anyone, especially if you have slow or dodgy internet connection. It's a doozy. However, luckily for all, especially people who have kind of hit and miss interwebs, but really for anybody who's interested in this flight simulator, the latest update has reduced the size of the initial download by more than half. So it's gone from over 170 gigabytes to just 83 gigabytes. Microsoft did not reveal exactly how they managed to pull this off. They only said that, quote, "We performed some optimization for the initial full download of the title," end quote. That's all they said. It's magic, guys. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. So the initial Steam download weighs in at a little over 700 megabytes, and then once that's up and running, the launcher will complete the installation by downloading another 81 gigabytes of data. So, okay, let's just so we're clear. That's still a whole lot of downloading. It's a whammy, but it is a massive improvement over what it was before. Another massive change in this new update is a reduction in the weather data bandwidth usage, which will hopefully be leading to better in-game performance. So it was kind of noted and talked about last year, especially on PC Gamer, they talked about this, that Flight Sim uses a variety of streamed data to enable real weather, air traffic, satellite information, etc. Having all of that running can really take a toll on frame rates, especially if you got anything else going in the background, like downloads or Netflix even, eating up data. That'll just it just doesn't go well. So the patch does not specify the amount of reduction in that kind of like live constant data streaming going on, but every little bit would help, essentially. So the patch introduces a number of changes to navigation, weather, and planes, as well as making a number of bug fixes to the game and its editors. There is also a warning that VR users may experience crashes when exiting VR mode, and developers aren't completely certain why, but suspect that OpenXR Preview runtime V106 might play a role. I know what some of those words mean. But anyways, if you're using VR, and you're crashing on the Microsoft Flight Simulator, and you run into that issue, revert to the V105 runtime, see if it helps. That's the running theory at the moment. You can check out the full patch notes on flightsimulator.com. And that's kind of all the info that I have on that particular topic. Sorry, something just flew by my face. I don't know if you can see it on camera or if I just look crazy for a second there. It's fine. Wolf's got the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil monkeys up in emojis right now. And I genuinely don't know what that's referring to. Did I say something wrong? See, now I don't even know. I didn't catch myself making a flub and I'm just paranoid. But that makes me nervous. Anywho's, yeah. Second guessing everything now. While I'm second guessing everything, I think that this is a perfect time for a water break. It is time to hydrate or dihydrate. If you're new here, this is where I hop off for a minute and play some BRB music and lecture everybody to drink waters. Water's good for your kidneys. You need your kidneys to live. Be good to your kidneys and drink water. Other beverages are delightful and lovely. I have nothing against any preferred beverage of your choice, but you also need water sometimes, so go drink water. I'll be right back. I am back. Drank some water. Hopefully you guys did too. I'm just gonna jump right into the next topic. I don't really have a decent transition for it, but CD Projekt Red has announced a new game director for Cyberpunk 2077. So Cyberpunk 2077 is a game that everybody was super excited about, and it ended up being released a bit before it was ready, I think, because it took a bit longer than anticipated to get going, and ended up being super buggy. A lot of people there's a lot of drama there. Go check out the memes. If you need to catch up, just check out the memes. I still think there's hope for it. I just think that it's very easy to release things before they're quite ready yet. Wolf says, hashtag rum is great. Not gonna disagree with that. But also drink water. Anyways, so in a series of they've been doing a lot of updates and fixing bugs, and Wolf says I thought it was lame and bad dev work. I mean, that's fair. I think that it was released before it was ready. I still think that there's a lot of potential for the game. I think it's easy for, especially something, it just, I talked a while ago about just the hype train and how that works and impacts, the entertainment industry at large. But one of the only ways to get funding at all, really, is to really hype the heck out of things. And I think if you get caught up in the hype, you kind of put yourself, you can put yourself in a situation where you try to meet the hype in ways that don't quite work. Wolf says, every glass of water I drink, you do a shot of rum. I don't have any rum at the moment. We'll look into doing a special one of these days. I don't know how that would go. Also, there's no way to verify that you're actually drinking the water, so... Anyways. I don't think my stomach could handle that. I'm too old for that. We'll see. Anyways, now I'm drinking water. Even thinking about doing that many shots of rum, my body was like, hydrate. Anywho's, I just think that... Yeah, I think that there was a lot of expectation that it had taken a long time. It was a very ambitious project, and it was meant to work well with a bunch of new consoles. And it kind of did, to the point where it didn't work on any of the older consoles, which is what most people still have. There was a lot that went into that. I still think the game itself has a lot of potential, super exciting, like, I get all that. I just think it, like I said, it rode the hype train, and then when it came time... with COVID and everything, there were delays, lots of things happened, it wasn't ready, and it was released, and that's that. Anywho, there's still, what I do appreciate is that they are still working on it. It's not, they didn't just drop it and run. CD Projekt Red is very much still working on making it a good gaming experience and delivering what was hyped. They're doing that in a number of ways. Like I said, there's been patches, there's been all these different things, and now they've appointed a new game director. So they've named Gabriel Amarangelo as Cyberpunk 2077's new game director. This appointment follows the departure of former Quest director Mateusz Tomaszkiewicz, who stepped down from the position and left the studio. Amarangelo joined CD Projekt in January of 2020 as a creative director for Cyberpunk. Prior to that role, he worked as a design director on Dragon Age Inquisition DLC, as well as lead designer on various expansions for Star Wars The Old Republic. So he's got quite a few successful games under his belt. He will be tasked with leading the development of Cyberpunk's future expansions. Like I said, they're not just dropping and running. They really are invested in this project. They've got my respect for that. Another former Cyberpunk game director, Adam Badowski, will now focus on other leadership duties within the company. This includes CD Projekt Red's 2.0 transition, which will see the studio alter its strategy in order to be able to develop multiple AAA titles in parallel. Meanwhile, CD Projekt is still struggling to restore Cyberpunk, specifically on the PlayStation Store, after it was removed months ago due to severe technical issues. Joint CEO Adam Kaczynski told investors on Tuesday that he has no new information regarding Cyberpunk's return to the Sony storefront. So they are still working on it, but nothing's been updated quite yet. I think it's kind of... goodness, between COVID being massive setbacks for a lot of people, between the launch of Cyberpunk 2077 not going as planned, and the whole Epic versus Apple debacle that has dragged in pretty much every major gaming company that there is. I think it's been a little bit hard for them to get on their feet, but I'm still hopeful. I really am. Mostly, I'm just a sucker for like for sci-fi. So I've got to maintain hope, because there's so much potential in this game. And as long as they keep at it, it can be super, super hard. So here's another thing I want to, like, not planned at all, but most of this show isn't. Another thing to chat about really quick is, as a creative, as an artist, really whatever you do, whether it's music, whether it's video games or TV shows, anything where you're making something creative, there is an expectation, especially with a certain caliber, of perfection from the get-go. And obviously that's what everybody wants, right? You want to be putting out a good product. You want to be putting out a full and complete thing. Sometimes that doesn't happen. And there's different takes that you can run with that. So it's so easy to drop a dud and, like I said, just kind of bail. And seeing this example for Cyberpunk 2077, where they're still actively invested in it and pouring a lot into it and working to make changes and future expansions and all these things, even though it had a really, really rocky launch, that I think is super important. Because art, especially when it's interactive art, especially in something like a video game, for example, where it's very, very highly interactive, it takes a lot of humility, integrity, and love for the project to release something, find out it's broken in the worst possible way, take that feedback, and keep at it. That's really, really hard to do. And I feel like, I don't know, I don't want to launch into personality types, because that's a whole rabbit hole on itself. But for some people, it can be really hard to make something and release it. And there are so many artists who won't release anything because it's not perfect. There are so many people out there who look at projects like this and it causes internal panic, and so they just never do anything because it's not perfect. And frankly, I'm that type of person where if I didn't have other people in the best possible way pushing me to kind of put things out there, I would never do anything until it was perfect, which means nothing would ever get done. So I personally like looking at situations where somebody else might call it an absolute failure, and I look at that and go, okay, that wasn't just a bump in the road. They hit a wall. Like, that didn't go well. It didn't go like anybody was expecting it to. And they're still running with it. And I'm like, okay, cool. That gives me hope to be able to put things out there and to continue to make it better. So yeah, just Ellie's little 2 cents on that. Wolf saying, I cannot release one like that. That's why I've not published yet. And it's not that it wasn't perfect, it wasn't playable. Yeah, they spent so much time, I think, focusing, like I said, on the new consoles, that it wasn't playable on a lot of the existing consoles. They were looking too far ahead and not paying attention to what was current as well. But their car didn't even start. It did for some people. I mean, there's a lot there. I don't want to necessarily fully disagree with what you're saying, especially as a dev, you know more about that particular aspect of it. But even with, like, this, what I'm doing here, there's a part of me that dies a little on the inside because it's live and I can't undo when I say things wrong. But it's been such a great learning experience for me. I definitely identify hardcore with the refusing to release something until it's perfect, but at the same time, from personal experience, there's so many things that I've made that have never and probably will never see the light of day because they're not perfect. And so I think if they had just denied that it was broken, if they had reacted in anger towards negative feedback, if they had done anything aside from what they did, which was offer refunds and work to fix it and all those things, then it would be super frustrating. And I can definitely imagine somebody who's been looking forward to this for a long time, who's purchased it and all that, getting a broken product, that's frustrating. 100% on board with all of that. But still, as a creative person, it is admirable for me to see someone run into something so catastrophic and keep going with it in a positive way. And that gives me hope for the future of this particular project of theirs, and it gives me hope for my future projects as well. Because that's what it means to be human. Sometimes you put something out and it just is catastrophic and the car doesn't start. But if your car doesn't start, I guess what I'm saying is that I have more admiration for the person who's like, okay, pulls out a wrench, let's see what's wrong, than somebody who's like, well, let's just throw away the whole car. And sometimes there's things that aren't fixable. Maybe the head gasket blew. I don't know. I'm like running with analogy, and I don't know enough about cars to go much further than I've already gone with it. But there's that. Yeah, and what Wolf's saying is they knew before it was released that it was nowhere near where the hype took it. Marketing did not communicate with the dev team at all. The studio dropped the ball. Yeah, like, I definitely think that hype and how it was marketed and all of that has a lot to do with kind of the issues with it. And I had a whole rant on hype culture that took half of an episode a while back, so I don't want to necessarily go back into that rant, but I'm not going to disagree with you on that at all. It was a lot of miscommunication. It was a lot. A lot went wrong. Most definitely a lot went wrong. I still 100% respect the fact that that they haven't walked away from the car. And if that's not, like, I in no way, shape, or form would ever judge anybody, especially somebody who spent money on it, from going, okay, you know what, I want my money back because it wasn't the product that I thought I was buying and I'm not interested anymore. That's perfectly valid. As a consumer, 100%. I'm not going to disagree with that either. But I'm, again, looking at it and looking at the people who made it and the acknowledgement that the ball was dropped and the fact that they're still working to make it a good product. I just have a lot of respect for that. But there's that. That's about it. Wolf's saying they, however, did own it well. That's kind of, yeah, that's what I think, is I've got a lot of respect and a lot of, like I said, it's that thing of me looking at it as just me personally and going, oh wow, that's bad. That would drive me into an early grave. Like, I would lose it. I don't know how I would handle that. But they handled it very well. They owned it well. They've handled it well, and they're still like, they're like, okay, you know what? Now, since we dropped the ball, we're gonna like double down to make it what it was promised. And I have hope that they will. And I have hope as a creative person that sometimes you do drop the ball. Sometimes you do mess up. Sometimes you miss deadlines. Sometimes you rush to meet a deadline and you really shouldn't have done that. But at the end of the day, you're making a story. You're making an art. You're making music. You're making whatever it is that you're making. And it's okay to make it better. Yes. Anyways. In a completely different topic. Feel free to keep chatting about it. But I don't really have a good transition here. But Jason Derulo is making his way into the comic book world. Crossovers I didn't see coming. I would have if I was on TikTok. But I'm not at the moment, so there's that. However, superstar, singer, / actor Jason Derulo is coming to comic books in a Keanu Reeves / BRZRKR style sci-fi project called Uzo. If you're a Derulo fan, you might already be familiar with Uzo. Uzo is a character that Derulo has created a series of TikTok videos about. I did catch up on some of them when I was diving into this topic. It's quite fun. Uzo's a story of humanity surviving, and it's in a distant future where Earth's turned into a bit of a frozen wasteland after a mysterious asteroid crashes on the surface. With the last shreds of human civilization fighting amongst themselves for survival, kind of Mad Max style, a man named Uzo, who looks a lot like Jason Derulo, becomes the last hope for both his village and the planet, according to publisher Z2 Comics' description. Derulo is quoted as saying in the announcement, quote, "I've been working on bringing Uzo to life for years, from writing scripts to skits on TikTok. So blessed to have worked with a dream team of creators to bring the best version of Uzo to you," end quote. So Uzo itself is written by Derulo and Anthony Piper, known for Trilogy, with Erica Coda, known for Generation X, illustrating the graphic novel. Chris Robinson is editing the project for Z2 Comics. Piper also said in the announcement, quote, "When I spoke to Jason about his idea, I was excited by his vision to turn his Uzo character into a hero, but even more excited that he was open to exploring dark and emotional themes that I felt were pertinent to the times we live in. We're creating something unprecedented for Black Hero, something that speaks on the responsibility that comes with manhood and being a protector of not only family, but of the planet itself," end quote. In addition to the main Uzo OGN, Z2 Comics plans an exclusive limited deluxe edition of Uzo that will include prints by Coda, Anthony Washington, Raymond Gay, and Andres Mossa. Uzo will be going on sale this October. That's another thing, again, crossovers I didn't see coming, but also really, really fun thing there. I, again, kind of caught up on some of the TikTok videos in preparation for this and finding out about it. And it's definitely an interesting take and everything like that. But I guess the tie-in here to what we were talking about before is, as someone who has created characters and stories and worlds in my head that I've just never put out there because they haven't been perfect, this is another example of watching somebody take something that... Some of them are kind of silly. Some of them are a little bit ridiculous. Some of them, like, they're different, but he's just putting that character out there because it's something that means something to him. And that has the potential to be super powerful. I'm really excited about this project. It's not something that I would have ever looked for actively, but I think that it's, like I said, it's got that potential to be super powerful, and I'm excited to see what happens. Oh, I'm so sorry, Rodney. There you are. I think there's a lot of potential there, and yeah, it's really, really cool to see somebody who... I don't think anyone would look at Jason Derulo and go, he's a comic book nerd. I could be wrong. That's certainly not a conclusion I ever reached on my own. But I love the overlap of creativity. I adore it. I love creative people being creative, especially in unexpected ways. And like I said, it gives me a lot of hope as a creative individual, that I can, like, maybe one day throw my characters out there before they're perfect and just let them grow into who they're meant to be. Let's see. Wolf said, yes, it's interesting storyline with that. I think it is a really interesting storyline. I'm especially kind of seeing the little bits he's put out there just with that character in random situations. I'm curious to see what he comes up with the team that's been built around this graphic novel. So, super fun stuff. And then Wolf also said, am I really the only one here? Where's Silly at? I don't know! But I appreciate you keeping the chat lit, so I'm not just talking to myself. I mean, I do that anyways, but I do that on a daily basis, so I feel like this is special because I get to talk to more than just myself. Good times, good times. Next up to chat about Far Cry 6, and specifically the fact that Ubisoft has kind of spoken out about the fact that they're not trying to make a specific political statement about Cuba. So there's that. Far Cry 6's narrative director, Navid Kavari, has said that despite the fact that they have used real-life stories of Cuban guerrilla fighters from the 50s and 60s as inspiration, they are not trying to make a political statement about what's happening in Cuba with the new game. The new game is meant to be a bit more broad and not necessarily a social commentary on a specific thing. This was talked about in an interview with The Gamer. Kavari said that while he wants Far Cry 6 to feel authentic and to pay homage to guerrilla fighters from around the world and throughout history, the team also does not want to make it specifically about the current issues in Cuba or any other real-world location. Is quoted as saying, quote, the original inspiration was guerrilla warfare, and what is that guerrilla fantasy, which is obviously tied to revolution. When you talk about guerrillas, you think of the guerrillas in 1950s and 1960s. We actually went down there to speak to actual guerrilla fighters who fought back then, and we just really fell in love with their stories, but we also fell in love with the culture and people we met. He continued to say, when we came out of that, it wasn't that we felt we had to do Cuba. We realized it's a complicated island and our game doesn't want to make a political statement about what's happening in Cuba specifically. Beyond that, we're drawing inspiration from guerrilla movements around the world and throughout history. For us, it felt like doing the island of Yara would help us tell that story while being very open with our politics and inspiration. End quote. This does not mean that the team's planning on pulling their punches in regards to exploring how a revolution impacts the people involved, and the surrounding areas and the ripple effects and all of that. He goes on to say, quote, a revolution is complex and the people you're going to engage with are also complex. I use this line of philosophy, which is that every character has their own heartbeat. You just have to find it. We have this melting pot of motivational complexity where we tried to translate that into the gameplay and the story. So tonally, it sort of already existed. But for us, thematically, unifying that into guerrilla fantasy felt pretty natural, end quote. So this actually follows similar comments from Ubisoft for games like The Division 2 and Far Cry 5 in doing what they can to stay politically impartial. I mean, it's been noted by other individuals like Watchdog Legion's director Clint Hawking, who said, quote, I believe it's our responsibility as creators of culture to talk about stuff that's real and that matters to people. I think Ubisoft is a bold company and has a willingness to explore issues and allow creative teams to engage with the challenging subject matter, end quote. I think that that's very interesting. So the thing with art, and I use that term so loosely, art can mean anything. You could just do so much with it. It's interesting. How do I say this? One of the things that I adore about sci-fi in particular, but it does bleed into other genres as well, is its ability to get viewers to engage in and think about very real, very present topics while also maintaining a little bit of distance. I think that there's a time and place for drama, and I appreciate it. But again, apparently we're just getting personal this time around. I like a little bit of distinction between fantasy and art I'm consuming and my reality, and having enough of a distinction actually allows me to apply it in ways that I wouldn't be able to. When I watch something, and there are specific shows that I don't watch because they're too good and too real, and if I watch it and it's like, well, that's my life, and it's that close, where it's like, I have actually honestly experienced this, and all this is doing is making me feel emotions I've already experienced. I'm not relating to the character, I'm reliving my own past. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's traumatic. I don't enjoy that experience. Some people do. It's very powerful. I'm not knocking that at all. But I love diving into the worlds of fantasy, of sci-fi, where I can look at a situation and it's different enough because it's aliens, or it's robots, or it's superpowers. So it's somebody else's life, but I can connect with it in a way, like it's distanced enough that I'm not thrown into my own trauma, but real enough that I can connect in and really, really dive into intellectually and emotionally and everything else. Not only my own perspective, but even other people's perspectives of very, very real issues. And so this particular thing is a fascinating topic because on the one hand, I'm sure that there are going to be people who try to say, you know, just own it. You know, you obviously have these political opinions and you've used this as your inspiration, so just own that this is a political commentary. But I actually think that there is power as a storyteller in saying, you know, I was heavily influenced by this and I do think it's super important, but if you want to know the history of 1950s, 1960s guerrilla warfare in Cuba, study that. Look into that. This is separate. It's not going to be direct translation. It's not going to be a direct political opinion. It's not going to be any of that. We're going to take what we learned, what we felt, how we engaged with this topic, and we're going to turn it into its own world so you can engage with that world and come to your own conclusions. And I think that's a very, very powerful form of storytelling. So, yeah, I like all sides of it. I like looking at what inspired certain stories to be written. And I do like going in and looking at documentaries. Why couldn't I think of that word? Or history books, or reading facts. I enjoy that, but it's got to come from a different, for me personally, it just has to be a little bit different. Like, I either go in looking at history as history, or I go into a story, and I like there to be a little bit of a distinction there, because if it's a story, I can engage with the story, and then connect with it and consider heavy topics without, like I said, just watching my own life play out in exact form, which means I'm only experiencing my own emotions and only thinking about my own trauma. Yeah, I think it's really cool. I think it's really powerful. I think it's really important. And I do agree that it's not, it is, there's a boldness to it. It's not, I don't think they're backing out of anything. I think they're embracing, yes, this was our motivation, but it goes so much further than that. Look at this topic as a whole and how it impacts humanity, and then go from there. I think it's pretty cool. So that's a fascinating topic for me. I'm curious if anybody's got any thoughts, either now or in the future if you're watching this back. Catching up on the chat really quick. Wolf says, this is my favorite show. Aw, thanks. But just by saying that publicly does not make it inadvertently that. That's, yeah, with the topic of saying publicly that it's not a political statement. Yeah. But like I said, I think that I think you get to, at times, do more by distancing yourself from a specific opinion or political topic than if you, like, latched on and was like, yes, this is historically accurate. This is our opinion on this particular event that happened. I think you can do more with a broader story and still engage your audience about real issues. So I think it's cool. I'm very curious to see what kind of story they come up with and how people do interact with it. What conclusions the audience does come up with. Next up to chat about, the last topic I have for today actually is high school sports are going through a massive shift right now, partially due to Nintendo. So 3 popular Nintendo titles are officially now Canadian and US high school esports. Can I just say, high school sports would have been a lot more interesting to me if there were esports involved. Or just, you know, I can get really competitive online and with games and things like that, but when it comes to sports, I'm actually, I don't know how to explain it, because I am competitive. I'm also super clumsy. And I love playing sports, and I love being active, but I always felt like left out in high school sports areas because don't have a sense of balance, and that's like a legit medical thing as well. I have vertigo and things like that. So when I say I'm clumsy, I'm not just talking about like, oh, I trip sometimes. Lol, I'm a nerd. I mean, I've fallen out of a chair whilst sitting down because I lost my balance, because it's a thing that I have. So yeah, sports are touchy subject for me, but like, goodness, if esports existed when I was in high school, I might have actually been able to be an athlete. There it is. Anyways, high school is about to get a lot more interesting, specifically for aspiring gaming athletes, thanks to a new partnership between Nintendo and PlayVS. So 3 of Nintendo's most popular online competitive titles will now be officially recognized esports at the high school level in Canada and the US. Students at selected schools will be able to compete in Mario Kart, Splatoon 2, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This is a new initiative starting on September 20th. It'll begin with Smash Bros. Ultimate and Splatoon 2. Mario Kart competitions will be added to the roster in early spring of 2022. To help the competitors, both Nintendo and PlayVS will be providing hundreds of participating schools with a Switch that compete in PlayVS Nintendo League during the current school year. Furthermore, 3,000 schools that qualify to compete will receive a copy of Smash Bros. Ultimate or Splatoon 2 and a free 1-year individual subscription to Nintendo Switch Online. This is a great new concept by PlayVS to encourage and nurture talent at the high school level. Many younger aspiring athletes are interested in getting into the world of competitive esports, and this is the perfect way to do it while still in high school. PlayVS's founder and CEO, Delane Purnell, said he always wanted to partner with Nintendo. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe also being added is a positive sign for the series, which recently received its first update in over 2 years. It's also a great initiative on Nintendo's part by providing the system and game titles, especially to schools that may be in low-income areas. That way that those interested can still compete and are not blocked by financial hardships preventing them from purchasing a Nintendo Switch personally. Here's to hoping that this new partnership proves to be a successful one that can continue on for a very long time. I think that this is going to end up being super controversial, and I think that it's a little bit dumb that it will be controversial, but I would be shocked if it isn't. I think there's a lot of controversy around video games in general. There's certainly a lot of controversy around the concept of video games as a professional thing. And I'm happy about this because it's about time that that started to shift. The world today is very, very different from the world that I grew up in. Certainly the world the generation before me grew up in. The way that people make a living has changed. And I feel like there's still so much stigma against video games and against this idea of professional video games and professional competitions with video games when, like, there is a market for it. And I feel like even for myself, the major block between me and computers or IT or anything like that when I was in high school was that I was functioning under the false assumption that computers equal math. And if I couldn't math, then I couldn't computer. But I love that this is that, I don't know, competitive esports as well as a lot of technological fields and things like that are more and more, you're seeing that kind of come into the high school realm and opportunities open up. And if you can have an athlete begin training in high school and get serious about their field in high school, why not extend that to the virtual realm as well? Because there is a market there. There is a living to be made there for some people. It is worth doing. And to put it in a high school, as mentioned in the blurb that I was talking about, is a bit of an equalizer because it takes away that need to pay out of pocket for a personal console when your school is providing it and you're able to compete that way. So I think that's super, super important and really, really exciting. And that, I don't know why I'm like repeating words, super, super, and really, really, but hey, there it is. This makes my little nerd heart happy for all the little nerds in high school that are soon to be jocks. Get it. Embrace your nerdiness and be an athlete online. I think it's awesome. Chatting, or catching up on the chat rather. Wolf saying, I love highly indigent conversation with the right people, but some subjects bring the worst in some people. They can be open-minded and objective. I think that's in reference to that prior topic. That's fair. Fair enough. That's all I've got. That's it for today. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me. Wolf, thank you so much for chatting. It's been a blast. Guys, we're going to E3. We are going to E3. I'm super, super freaking excited about it. I don't even have words. Make sure you're following us on social media. We're kind of throwing new things out there. We're really, really working on what we're going to be presenting at E3. Super excited. Oh my gosh, you guys don't even know. Exciting stuff coming. there's going to be an E3 app. When it goes live, check it out. You'll be able to visit virtual booths. There's a lot going on. We're still all learning about what that's going to entail. But yeah, E3 is going to be a really special event this year. Very different from prior years, obviously. It's virtual. But it's E3. If any convention can pull off going virtual, E3's gotta make it, right? So definitely check it out when it goes live on the app. Keep an eye out for DVSI Entertainment because we're gonna be at E3. No words. No words for the excitement. Just a really, really awkward facial expression and weird noises. There you go. I will be back on Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. That's 6 p.m. if you live on the other coast. I'm going to be here, uSpot Live. Rodney will also be back, so no worries on that. We look forward to seeing you. Make sure you're having a good week. Again, I really hope you've enjoyed your holiday. And stay hydrated, stay healthy, stay happy, stay kind, and as always, stay devious.